like, but I'll take it. I believe we have all of the board members on. Debbie wasn't sure that she was going to be able to make it this morning, but I think I saw Kevin, and I think I see Diana in here too.
No, I haven't. I haven't
okay.
seen Diana.
I saw Mary Ann. Okay. Yep. So we might just be missing.
I don't think Diana's making it.
She's not. Okay. All right. I wasn't sure if she did mention that. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that. Yeah, she did mention she wasn't sure if she was going to be able to make it or not, and made sure that we had a quorum. So thank you. So we do not think Debbie or Diana are making it, but we have everybody else, and we have a quorum, which is the most important thing. So on that note, call the meeting to order. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved. David.
Thank you, David. Do I have a second?
Brian.
Thank you, Brian. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. So just for those, if there's any new people on here, I recognize most of the names and numbers, but if there's any new people, what we usually do with our Friday calls is we go through the agenda item, similar to how we work our workshops. On a topic, we will go ahead and open it up to public comment after the board has their say, but usually prior to voting on something. So if you have any questions or comments that you're going through, please feel free to use your chat button or raise your hand to signify, and then I'll just ask the board to help me out in case I miss somebody. So on that note, let's move to management update on facilities open. Steve?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Vanessa, and happy Friday to everyone. I know on the agenda it's management update, but I want to start or on facility opens, but I want to start with just congratulating JR, his entire team, and the special events committee on what a really cool, wonderful event this week in town. Having Gary Levini drive around and I told you guys he's not an amateur, he's a professional. And if you saw him play this week, he's very good, very talented. So JR, is there anything you want to add with that?
No, I think we went very well. I mean, the 4 stops that we made, we had in excess of probably 500 people total between the stops. We had several people watching the streams live as it was happening. We did try to live stream bits and pieces as we went around the community. We have over 5,300 views of those videos that are up on our Facebook page now since Wednesday night. So all the response and the feedback we have gotten has been tremendous. So.
Yeah, it was excellent. So thank you guys for that. I know that was a real treat for the community to be able to get out and see that concert. So any questions from the board on that event?
Yeah, this is David. A couple comments. So that's 5,300 views on your Facebook posts. Some of us did our own live stream, and we have our own, what do you call it? We can add to those numbers. So it's a minimum of 5,300 plus the rest of us. Couple of comments. I thought it was great. I thought his style was marvelous. The weather worked well. I hope that the Special Events Committee, which is meeting in a week or two, will actively consider things like this, which are very outside the box. And so I just applaud that. My biggest concern, again, what I witnessed online and what I witnessed in person is in North Village, about 1/4 of us were wearing masks. And one of the sites I saw, I could find nobody with 50 to 75 people in the audience. I found nobody wearing a mask. So my caution is, as we're learning more and more about the pandemic, masks seem to be the way to go. And I think it's appropriate modeling by all of us to be wearing masks when in public. I know Orange County is going live with that. I think Sunday or Monday. But I think the event as a whole was spectacular. So thank you for doing that. And I look forward to some more.
I'll actually follow up with just one comment. Number one, JR, fantastic event. I think as this is something new, we continue to learn and observe and see new ways to improve and make it even better each time. My only suggestion, I did see an individual on a bicycle assisting with traffic flow to go ahead and prevent cars at intersections and things like that. Perhaps it might be something that a bicycle
officer may be able to go ahead and assist with as a sheriff. It might be something that they might be able to do moving forward that could help.
Thank you. Any other board comments?
Basically,
JR, kudos.
Just applause.
Yes, kudos, JR. I actually, I watched everybody go past right on the other intersection of my house. So I was able to see everybody go by. The music played as they were driving. It was fantastic. So well done. Thank you, JR. We'll look forward to more of those. Steve?
Okay, I'll jump into more of the facilities and some of the issues that we've dealt with over the past week. As summer continues to ramp up and more and more people want to get out of their house and utilize the amenities, from a park monitor and parks and recreation standpoint this week, it's kind of been like those old cartoons where you see someone stick a finger in a hole in a wall that's shooting out water, and then another hole pops up and you stick a finger in that one, and then another. And so we're running out of fingers to stick in holes. So let me go over some of the issues with you, and we're going to ask for board direction on a few of these. The first one is pools. We're seeing our pools more and more reaching capacity. And pretty much each one of them has reached capacity other than Lakeside. And Lakeside just has a larger capacity. So we've been receiving calls from our guests that are having issues with reservations for lap lanes. We've taken the list of reservations and we posted them now at the pool so that residents can see who's utilizing it. And then when the monitor goes out, we can say, you know, this is the person that's supposed to be in there at that point in time. One of the suggestions that we have to the board to try and address this problem is through the governor's phase 2 plan for reopening. Restaurants are now at 75%. When we initially looked at opening pools, we used that number for restaurants as our 50% guideline. So we're requesting to the board that as it continues to get hotter and more people want to utilize the pool, for us to be able to address these issues, that we increase to at least 75%, if not full capacity. But there's no guidelines at this point in time through the state or anywhere else for full capacity. So we would ask at least 75% opening, and I'll turn it over to the board to have that conversation.
I actually have a quick question, just clarification on this. The guidelines for cleaning the pools that we are doing now have not changed. You're still supposed to make sure you're keeping surface areas and all that stuff clean. Despite the,
we're still cleaning, yes.
Yeah, right. No, despite the contradiction, and playgrounds are all cool. You don't need to worry about the surface areas of those. They have not updated anything at all with regards to our protocol for our cleaning of surface area in the pool, meaning our chairs, tables, etc.
No, and we're not suggesting putting any more tables or chairs out. It's just the number of people wanting to use the pool. And we're still cleaning. We're still doing our 2 hours on, 1 hour cleaning.
Board comment?
How are we treating guests?
Well, we've asked residents to stick to residents only. I know that we've had a lot of families that have their kids back in town from college and those types of things. So, you know, it's pretty much just asking residents for their ID, and if they have guests, they'll tell us their family or wherever they're from. There's not much more we can do about it because the rules allow residents to bring 3 people in.
How is, have you heard anything from Bill over in Artisan? Are they having similar struggles or challenges, or maybe any other condo complex or apartment complex in the community?
No, I believe that Artisan has increased their capacity.
They did increase their capacity?
Yes, they did. They sent an email a few weeks ago.
Okay. And what do they increase to, the 75?
They're at 75%, I believe.
Okay.
I don't know what they've done with their pool furniture, but I believe they've, yeah.
Other board comments? Then do we have a motion?
Yeah,
go ahead, David.
This is David. You know, I'm conflicted. To raise it to 75% lowers the load, but I'm also cautious about expanding services. You know how I have voted consistently over the last 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm particularly concerned, like just with the 49% increase in cases over the last week. Last week was 39% over the prior week. So we are exploding and our percent positive is going up. So I just find it, I am conflicted with opening up services and communicating, even though that's not what our direct message is, but communicating that, hey, we can go to normal and it's going to get worse. I don't even think we're out of phase 1. And so I am scared to death about any reopening.
I hear that.
I'm just very frustrated.
I mean, I hear David.
Not with our decision, but what is happening. I'm frustrated with what is happening. So that's
Brian,
my
go ahead.
issue. I'm sorry, Brian.
Brian, go ahead.
No, I hear David's comment, and I respect it. Although it's interesting, we keep the playgrounds closed. So I was talking to a parent the other day about how they're dealing with the playgrounds being closed. And the parent said it was very simple. All of us get our kids together. We go to one of the parks and we bring our own toys and they all play with the toys and the kids all roughhouse and have fun with each other because we got to get them out of the house. So, you know, I almost will take the opposite approach completely of David, which is, yes, there are increasing cases and stuff like that. I feel like we're setting up town hall to just be an impossible situation. It's summer, you got guests and stuff like that. I mean, if you're going to open the pools, I probably would go to 100%. We've said we won't have open the playgrounds, then don't open them. But, you know, it's like the basketball thing, which I voted against last week. There was zero doubt in my mind that as soon as we opened basketball, we would have 5-on-5, 4-on-4, 3-on-3. So I think, and I'm trying to help management here, I think we're getting to that point where whatever is open is going to have to be open, and we shouldn't open things if we don't expect people to behave the way they're going to normally behave in the summer. And I read the Facebook stuff, and I'm talking to friends and stuff like that, like all of you are. And I think we're just, you know, we're going to have to trust people to be adults and open things that we want open and close things that we want closed, and trust the process. And if Orange County went to mask, if Osceola County goes to mask, and if the government starts slapping down on things, then we'll react to that accordingly. But otherwise, I feel like we're chasing our tails, because I'm also getting told, well, they can do it over here, why can't we do it? People are looking for the greater authority to exercise whether they want to.
This is Mary Ann.
Oh, go ahead, Mary Ann, and then Kevin. Go ahead, Mary Ann.
Well, it's just, I think everybody knows I've been very conservative on the safety issues because I have to deal with it professionally as well as here. But I have decision-making fatigue about monitoring grown-ups who should be making adult decisions in the best interest of their family and themselves. I'm going to be really blunt. I'm so over it. I mean, this is a tough one, because everything that I'm reading that's coming to me is telling me keep pumping the brakes, but also there comes a point in time where we can do the best we can do to promote and protect public health, but we can't be the police on it. I'm struggling. I think David is probably feeling the same way. I'm really struggling because I'm getting information that's telling me one thing, getting public pressure that's telling me another, and I'm at the point where I'm being very transparent with you. I just want to throw up my hands and say, look, let's let Darwinism take over. Survival of the fittest, just figure it out on your own. So this is a tough one, and I can't even tell you right now in the middle of this conversation what way I'm going to vote when you call my name, because this is not going away anytime soon. Anybody that thinks it is very naive. So I'm not really contributing any positive thing to help you think one way or the other. I'm sorry about that.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Thank you, Mary Ann.
I think I'm leaning, though, a little bit more into it's time for people to start taking some personal responsibility in lieu of us taking the responsibility. But I'm struggling with that because I'm used to being in a leadership position where I do make those decisions. And that's all I have to say about that.
Thanks, Mary Ann. Kevin, go ahead. And yes, just for the resident, I did notice that is correct. The recommendation for masks never stopped. And I have to say that when I walk downtown, everyone is walking around that are not residents without a mask. And I think even with even some residents are not wearing masks. So that is rampant downtown. Go ahead, Kevin.
So I think, as with all of us, we're having, some challenges and struggles of how to best go ahead and take care of this for the entire community. As an individual, you can go ahead and do as you see fit, but I'm having a difficult time continuing to keep certain areas limited for those that are comfortable to go ahead and proceed. If we go ahead and we look to our higher leadership in certain areas, I mean, the reality is if somebody is going to go to a grocery store, or to Lowe's, or to downtown, or Disney Springs rather, or to other areas, chances are they're local, given the less amount of people that are traveling to Florida in the 14-day quarantine. So with that being said, the individuals that are within celebration are going around and they're going to do their thing. That's the reality of it. For us to go ahead, we can only be in the position of keeping the honest, if you will. Without going ahead and imposing restrictions on somebody's day-to-day life. If they are a healthy individual, whatever the case may be, of course, there's asymptomatic, nobody knows, but everybody today understands the risks of what is going on in this world. And if you are not comfortable, it's like anything else in the world. If you're not comfortable driving because of certain reasons, then you don't drive. If you're not comfortable for this, that, the other, then you don't do it. And unfortunately, that needs to be how we lead, because as leaders, we need to do that. We need to go ahead and not follow because a portion of the community is nervous or upset. That portion is not required to come out of their home to go ahead and go to a pool, to go to a playground, and so on and so forth. I think that we do what we can, which is reserving lap lanes to assist for those that need to go ahead and do their healthy activities. But learning, now this is the first that I've learned about Artisan Park being open and increasing rather their percentage. And it could have been emailed, it could have been something that I missed, so please don't take it that way. But I was under the impression that we needed to go ahead and do a vote to open their amenity and to go ahead and do it based on certain guidelines. Yes, it was not required, but I thought we had this communication to go ahead and be on the same page for the sake of the community. If that's been going on for several weeks at 75%, I actually kind of think it's a little unfair for the rest of the celebration community to not be at that same level. If we can go ahead, to Brian's point, if we want to go ahead and go to 100, that might be another option, but I would go ahead and agree with management right now to start at 75, increase, the signage to go ahead and share the 75% or maximum, as well as more so pushing the social distancing, the cleaning, the times that it's closing, and so on. So those are my overall comments. It's not an easy answer.
Thank you, Kevin. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, and just as another anecdotal story, we learned today that the golf course is no longer going to give people individual carts on the golf course. They went to, we're not going to have you sharing with people and your adults. If you don't want to play, we'll let you cancel. So with that as background, I'll make the first motion and see if I can get a second or not. I would motion that we open the pool.
Wait. I'm going to ask you one question before you motion that. Will it or will it not include addressing the morning hours, our at-risk time? Because I think that we need to factor in our at-risk time if we're going to do anything. It'd be two different things, but maybe we should take the at-risk time separately from the motion itself.
That's my next topic that I'm going to bring up.
Okay, so we can discuss. Do you want us to motion this first and then do at-risk, or how do you want this done? What's the easiest way for you?
Yeah, for the capacity increasing, I don't think affects what we're going to recommend for the at-risk hours.
Okay, perfect. Then
so I would
keep
treat them
Brian.
separately.
Okay, I'm not going to motion what management suggested. I'm going to motion that we put capacity at 100%. I'm going to motion that we retain the hours the way that we've had them, 2 hours open, 1 hour closed, and then at-risk can be a separate motion. But I'm trying to let management focus on where they can focus and tell people that we're going to, I think we're setting management up to be an impossible situation. So that's why I'm going with 100% with cleaning and the hours as we have it down. and the reserve.
Thank you, Brian.
I'll second
Thank you,
that.
Brian. Do I have a second from Kevin? So one comment, my number one concern of capacity is that to your point, Brian, is that we have put management and staff in an impossible situation. As we get busier, it's going to get more confrontational, and I just I'm not really willing to put staff out there either. So I hear you. Any other comments from board?
I'm just going to, maintain the same point I said just earlier, 10 minutes ago. I'm concerned about the message we are sending. I mean, I'm concerned about management, but I'm concerned about the message we send as we relax. So.
Brian, I have a question for you. What would be your thoughts on doing a motion for 75% right now and revisiting next week based on what results we see? I don't know, just as a thought right now.
I am not opposed to 75%. I was just trying to put this issue behind us because I believe very much with what Mary Ann said before. And the eye-opener to me the other day when I was talking about the resident with the kids. And yes, if you're going to tell me I can't do this, well, me and all the mothers have decided we're going to do this. And I really feel like we started very cautiously for very intelligent reasons. And I understand what's happening in the community. And I think there's an increase in cases. And I suspect we're going to have an increase this fall. And I suspect we're going to have complicated conversations nationally about college students, high school students, grade school students, all of that. But this is June, and I read these things, and I feel if I was one of these pool monitors going, will you please leave the pool? No, okay. Yeah, I don't think we're being fair to people. Because I'm going to have an opposite opinion when we go to basketball here in a little bit. That's why I did 100. But if the rest of the board says, hell no to 100, we'll do 75, I'm not going to fight it at all. I'm just trying to help.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see some way to make all happy.
I would like to call the vote at 100%, Mary, or Vanessa, and see where we end up.
All right, David, 100%, yes or no?
No.
Mary Ann, yes or no?
Oh, no.
Brian, yes or no?
Yes.
Kevin, yes or no?
Yes.
No Debbie, no Diana, and I'm a no, sorry. But fails for 100%.
Okay,
I throw that same motion out.
Yep.
There you go.
Same motion, 75%.
Take your pick, one or two.
Okay,
75%.
all right.
Second.
75%, okay. David, yes or no?
No.
Mary Ann, yes or no?
I'm going to do yes.
I'm with you.
I
feel my fingernails being pulled off too. I got you. Brian, yes or no?
Yes.
Kevin, yes or no?
Yes.
And actually, I was on the fence too. I'm actually not. I'm actually of the mindset that we just need to keep things the way they are. But so no matter whether I vote yes or no, it doesn't really matter because there's 3 yeses. So I will just I will vote with a yes because I know it's going to happen either way, and understand that that's okay. So 75%, Steve?
Yes. Well, I wish I had good news, but it's not going to get easier as we continue having these conversations because I have 3 more facilities that we need to discuss.
We want to discuss
so the next one.
Go ahead. I was going to say, do you want to do at-risk hours? Do you want to do at-risk hours now? Okay.
Yeah, so I said facilities, at-risk is one of those issues that need to be discussed. So we've been receiving multiple calls regarding this. We have residents that are upset that they can't use the facility during at-risk hours, and then we have residents that are upset that there's people that they don't think should be in there. They're making their own determination of whether the person has an at-risk immune system or what age they are, and they're actually confronting each other and saying, how old are you? And we've instructed all of our staff that we're to make announcements that it's compromised immune systems in 65 and over, but we're not to go and ask everybody their age, or for any reason at all, should we ask them what their symptoms are, what their compromised immune systems are? So again, a very tough situation. So we're going to recommend that instead of having all 4 facilities open for at-risk, that we reduce it down to 2 at-risk hours. 2 pools are at-risk hours, and the 3 that we're requesting to be opened to the residents without at-risk are East Village, and from June 1st through June 15th, I had 2 days. I had June 3rd, 2 people used it during at-risk, and June 10th, 2 people. So that should be a little bit easier decision for you because there's nobody using it for at-risk during that time. Spring Lake, 1 day on June 15th, we had 2 people. And then North Village, 1 day, June 10th, we had 3 people. So Spring Park and Lakeside seem to be the 2 facilities that are utilizing that risk the most. But the challenge with that is that those 2 facilities are both the lap lane pools, and our folks that are trying to stay healthy that might not have compromised immune systems are trying to get out there and do lap swimming in the morning. So the recommendation is that we only have Spring Park and Lakeside as at-risk, and we reduce those at-risk hours to 7 to 9 instead of 7 to noon. And I'll turn it over to the board to have this conversation.
Any comments, questions?
This is Mary Ann. David,
no,
feel
go
free.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just coming at it from, if the data is telling us that the utilization during those hours is low in those areas, it seems like supported and logical decision to make a modification that just makes sense to me.
Well, yeah, I was going in that same direction, but there's only one set of data, and you have 2 separate items here. One is you're taking away 3 pools for the at-risk because they were not used. But I didn't hear the usage between 9 and 12 at Spring Park or Lakeside.
It would actually be 10 to 12 because the pool's closed.
Oh, no, sorry, yeah, 10 to
10 just
10 to 12.
for cleaning.
What's the usage with that risk, 10 to 12 in those 2 settings?
Well, so I'd have to get Nikki to break it down from the 10 to 12, but for Lakeside Pool, just to give you an idea, there's 10 residents on June 1st. There was 12 all the way up to 17 to 20 residents utilizing it. And that's heavily during the morning time, but I'd have to get Nikki. So if it makes the board more comfortable, we could just leave it from 7 to noon. I'm sorry, from 7 to noon now, and then next week we can bring back more accurate numbers of what that 10 to noon looks like. But yeah, I agree with Mary Ann. The other 3, the data is just showing us that it's just not being utilized for at-risk.
So the recommended change, just in what you just said, Steve, is eliminating the 3 pools that have not been used much at all for at-risk hours, eliminating those from the at-risk hours places. So just
and then that way, if someone says, well, I really want to use the pool, even though I'm not at risk, we can say, well, there's 3 other pools available to you. You just can't use these 2 pools.
Yeah. So at-risk hours from what you're saying is at-risk, Spring Park and Lakeside, 7 to noon, except for the 1 hour of cleaning.
Correct.
So follow-up, sorry, go ahead, Brian, and then I have a follow-up question too. Go ahead.
Do we need 7 to noon or could we do 7 to 9? I am assuming, and this may be a totally incorrect statement, but I'm assuming most of the at-risk swimmers are older people who are probably getting up and doing laps first thing in the morning. And probably the real conflicts we're having is when the rugrats all come out, when the sun starts coming out at 10:30 or 11 or something like that. So do we need noon or could we do at-risk 7 to 9?
I'd like to call on Nikki, but she's got her hand up, and I think she has some more information.
Nikki, it's all you.
Good morning, everyone. In regards to the other half of the at-risk hours, I do have those numbers if you'd like to hear those. For East Village, after we clean the pool from 10 to 11, it is less than 5 participants that we are receiving at-risk hours. Spring Park, we're usually receiving around 8 to 10 guests between those days on Mondays and Wednesdays in June. Lakeside, we are receiving around 23 guests. And
so those are the 2 pools, Nikki, that we're recommending. So I don't think we need to hear them for all the other ones, but for those 2 pools though, so you're saying that they actually have higher numbers from 10 to noon.
Correct, yes.
And we have seen some of the video footage, because after there's confrontations between residents, I've gone back and watched video footage, and I've seen between the 10 and 11 o'clock hours, I've seen kids at Lakeside Pool. So when Nikki's counting those numbers, some of these kids might not be compromised immune systems. There may be people just going in there still utilizing it.
So a couple questions. For the at-risk hours, by shifting because we only have the 2 lap lanes. So we only have them at Spring Park and at Lakeside are the only areas that we have lap lanes, correct? Right now, yes. When residents are reserving those lap lanes, it is noted in the reservation system that the lap lanes during those times are for at-risk, correct? So we have people using lap lanes theoretically, right? Per as long as we can reinforce that, they're only using it at risk periods during the lap lanes. Are only at-risk residents.
You can utilize the lap lanes throughout the day also, but I think that the peak times are the morning and the evening after work.
But those 2 times, they're only supposed to be reserving the lap lanes if you're at risk for the morning.
Yes, and it says that when you go to register, it tells you that you should be, and I sent a screenshot of that to the board a couple weeks ago.
Right, that's why I'm clarifying for those for the residents. That way they understand that when they're making reservations, they're not supposed to be using it if it's at risk during those times, unless you are at risk. More importantly,
and there are people out there.
More importantly, residents cannot ask their fellow residents whether or not they are compromised, et cetera. That's not the role of the residents.
No, there are people out there that have autoimmune deficiencies that they may look perfectly healthy, but they're still at risk. So it's really not, and it's against the law, quite honestly. You can't go and ask people what their ailments are.
Correct. So I just for conversation's sake, I'm comfortable. First of all, I think during at-risk hours, I don't think we should increase our capacity. I think the more people you cram in there, the worse challenges you're going to have with making sure that if we're designating at-risk hours, it's kind of a contradiction in terms, right? You're at risk and you're going to increase your capacity. So I'm not okay for at-risk hours increasing capacity beyond the 50% that they already are. I don't know, and obviously this is something that the rest of the board can have a conversation in. But I also want to make sure that we have the lap lanes still designated as at risk during those times. Personally, I think we need to make sure that that we keep it from the 7 to noon. Personally, that's my own. I'll open it up for anybody else.
I'll make a quick comment. I agree with that. I think I agree that if we shrink to just 2 pools, it makes the most sense. We're going to the 2 larger pools.
No.
Somebody's on a.
Can somebody mute their phone? Thank you. Go ahead.
Perfect. So we're going to go ahead. I would be in favor of going ahead and keeping it to the 2 larger pools that we have in the community. They both have the lap lanes as well. I would be in favor of doing the full amount of time right now, to go ahead and ensure that the community doesn't get confused for, hey, it's 9 to 12. If we change too much too quick, there tends to be confusion. So if for right now we go ahead and we're just putting it at the larger pools, I think there's still going to be some confusion that we need to educate the community on for the smaller pools. But for the time being, I would be in favor of keeping the up until noon each day.
So is that your motion, Kevin?
And that's 7. It's 7 to noon also, just so that.
Okay, I'll be happy to make a motion to have at-risk hours only at Spring Park Pool, as well as Lakeside Pool, for the hours of 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. daily.
Are you keeping a capacity at 75% or keeping it, or do you want it at 50?
At 50. At 50. Okay. I think it's most logical.
Let me ask a question. You said daily. It's not daily. It's Mondays and Wednesdays, right?
Just Mondays and Wednesdays, correct?
Okay, sorry.
Okay, there we go. I'm sorry.
All good.
And we really haven't had a capacity issue when it comes to the at-risk times. It's been more of just challenging of who's at risk and who's not.
But I don't want to make it a free. But I don't want to make it a free for all either. Was somebody seconding that? If not, I can.
David second that.
Thank you, David. Okay. Any comments, questions? Steve, is that reasonable based upon what you're seeing?
Yes, and again, if it becomes problematic, we'll put it back on the agenda and we'll ask for new modifications.
Okay, very good. Any other comments, questions? Call the vote. David, yes or no?
Yes.
Marianne, yes or no? Marianne, you're muted.
Yes.
Thank you. Brian, yes or no?
Fine.
Kevin, yes or no?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. And I'm a yes. Okay.
Okay, I'll move on to the Spring Lake Fitness Center then. We are receiving emails in regards to concerns about the reservations of the equipment. Gym reservations are consistently reaching capacity now, and when we make our rounds there, we're consistently seeing teenagers in the gym without reservations. There's a few adults that are going in without reservations. You know, I've had someone push the door open and broke the lock on there. So the Spring Lake Gym Fitness Center does not seem to be working. So our recommendation is we either open it up regularly like we normally have, with the consistent hours of closing to clean like we're doing with the pools, or we close the gym back down. It's a management nightmare. It's frustrating residents that want to use it, and there's just not everybody's abiding by the rules there.
And breaking our facilities is not acceptable, just saying.
No.
Yeah. So
and I found out who did it, and I've been in contact with them. So once we get the price of it, I will be presenting that to them. So we'll see where that goes.
Perfect.
So Steve, a couple of questions real quick. When it comes to the usage of the gym, what is the occupancy of persons that are typically allowed? And I believe we are at 50%, so please just correct me if I'm wrong. And the second question is what are the rules? Are teenagers or anybody under 18 typically permitted in that gym, or is that a no-go?
So the first question, I'm going to have to ask Nikki to come on and help me with this. Right now we have it set at 4, which is well under occupancy. And it's just, again, it's not working. And there is an age limit for going in there. I believe it's either 16 or 18, but I have to ask Nikki to jump on here.
Nikki, you're on mute.
It's 18. 18. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, 18.
Correct.
Okay, so
And
with
everybody,
that being
everybody
said,
has, but Kevin, also everybody has to fill out the form, the form in order to
There's a waiver,
enter into
right.
it. The waiver. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, but that waiver
just
was in place well before COVID. That's part of utilizing the gym altogether.
I
just wanted a little clarification.
Just a second, Kevin's been trying to talk. Go ahead, saw you.
So I appreciate that clarification. And the one thing I want to say is I think this is not even a COVID issue. I think this is a greater issue that we have in the community just as a whole, even if we didn't have a pandemic going on. And that's going to be more focused on the usage and those who use the amenity. Clearly, there's some damage going on as well. I would be curious to hear the board's opinion and management's opinion of potentially staffing somebody there just for a week, as we did in other areas, because we need to hammer that home, that there is a waiver that needs to be filled out, the access needs to be there, and it kind of gives us a better sense of what's going on over the next week, and then talk about it next week. But those are my 2 cents on that.
Steve,
Vanessa, do you mind if can I address Kevin's question real quick?
Go ahead and address that, and then Brian.
Yeah, so I think that I'll answer it with asking the board a question back again. We're asking the entire community to pay for somebody to sit there at that one little facility, and it's not even the biggest facility. I mean, the pools have a lot more people utilizing them. The rest of the facilities, dog park, tennis. So right now we're trying to spread everybody out among those. We'd have to take somebody from that or go out and hire a new body to sit there for that little facility. So that would be the question I'd pose back to you.
Kevin, Kevin, did you want to respond? Are you good with that? And then just, and then Brian. You good?
Well,
okay.
we'll all
ahead,
talk
Brian.
and we'll.
Okay. Go ahead, Brian.
2 things. I didn't understand Nikki's response. Is it 18 and older, or was it just up to 18 people? So I'd like that clarified. And then the damage, I never heard, or I missed it maybe. The damage, what is the damage issue?
Someone ripped the door open, and actually from the inside they pushed it open and completely broke the magnet that has to be replaced. We have a temporary fix on it for now, but there's going to be a cost to replace it.
I was notified of it, by the way. They were already replacing
it. Just was 2 days ago.
Yeah. But the reason why it was reached out to is it was a conversation, and it was resolved, and he was going to be discussing it today. So it was just something they knew we were going to be talking about today.
Okay, what was I didn't hear Nikki. So was it 18 and older, or 18 people, or can you clarify?
It's the age, 18 and older.
And how much capacity can you have in the gym?
It was 8, I think, total, normal. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. I have to go and look at it, but I don't have the answer right off the top of my head.
So
I think it's more than 8. Though.
How much?
Okay.
How many pieces of equipment are in the gym, in the fitness center?
Nikki, are you muted?
Not
We
muted.
can't hear you, Nikki.
She's not muted, but we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
you're good.
Okay. So in regards to equipment, there are 3 treadmills, 2 ellipticals, 2 bikes, and then you have the weight section. So I believe there's roughly 6 to 8 gym equipment that are on the other side that is equivalent to the weight section, the weight training, I mean.
Yeah, I think if you didn't have the COVID restrictions, you could probably fit about 20 people in there. It'd be really tight. But I have to go and look at what the number is on the building.
Okay, as we continue this conversation, I may look at, I'm sorry, David, real quick.
Okay.
I may look at what we're doing with the pools and then at risk, potentially that path that we take, just as a thought right now.
David, go ahead.
Yeah, so two questions. One is, can we identify typical users of that facility? So my specific question is, does this primarily serve Spring Lake residents? My assumption is it would primarily serve Spring Lake residents. I mean, do people from Artisan?
David, I can say that I know a lot of my neighbors go over there all the time, and we're right in Main Village, so it's not just Spring Lake.
So that's a false assumption. Okay, so that was.
You just muted yourself, David. Oh, there you go.
No, I didn't.
Oh, somebody muted you. Sorry. You're good now.
Vanessa shut me down.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. Goodness me.
Just kidding.
Sorry about that.
No. But the other question is this an appropriate discussion for a service area committee in Spring Lake? Just a question.
It is a CROA facility, so I would not ask the service area to address that.
Okay. Just thank you.
Yeah, and again, we can do the digging. We can go and pull everybody's the badges and then look up where they live, and that's going to take a little bit of time to do that. But my argument is that it's such a small amount of people that are utilizing it, and it's just running wild, and they're not following the rules.
Yeah, that's fine. And I think Vanessa's anecdotal comment I think is fine because it's serving more than Spring Lake, which is good to know.
Right.
So just as a quick clarification, if you do not have your waiver filled out, your card is not activated to be able to get into the gym. So one of two things is happening. If they have not filled the waiver, they are using somebody else's card, or somebody else is letting them in. Those are the only two options. So I think it's fair to say that the people that are going into the gym have access. So in whatever capacity that is, it's not because we have provided, as CROA, we've provided them access. It's because somebody's giving them a key, or they have already gotten their access. So on that note, any comments, questions, motions?
Steve, was the individual that did break the door, were they over 18, and did they have a waiver signed?
Yes, they had the ability to get in there.
So they had a waiver,
and they broke it from the inside. I guess didn't know how to get out appropriately and pushed it open. And it's one example of just the blatant breaking of the rules out there right now.
What
Yeah,
is your
I think this issue is bigger than COVID, though.
Yeah, I think
So
that's
what,
true.
what is your recommendation, Steve? Because I mean,
I think we should close it. I mean, I just don't see putting a resource sitting there all day for a small amenity like this. Either that or open it up fully and just let people use it. We never had these problems in the past.
Yeah, that's what you said earlier, either or. Open it regularly or
Right.
close it. So
one extreme or the other. Comments, motions, discussions? I will read Mary Ann. Thank you for your comment that, we said that when people couldn't follow the rules, we'd shut it down. So we either need to do one thing or the other.
is that a motion?
I
Oh,
am
go ahead.
gonna, yeah, I'm just gonna sit a little more firm on, a resident has been reaching out to me quite often, as the board knows, with concerns with the fitness center in Spring Lake. I have a hard time doing an either or. To Mary Ann's point, if somebody isn't, going ahead and taking the proper precautions, yes, we would go ahead and shut it down. But I don't believe that this issue is related to occupancy entirely, but in fact, just overall respect of community property. And respect of other residents within the community. I just feel like I would like to be a little more educated before closing it down entirely. And I feel as though the same concept of having security stand at Lakeside, as an example, it's a deterrent, and it kind of educates the community and forces the community to go ahead and behave. So if that's just a couple of days, if that might be the way. If that's only in the morning during an at-risk hour kind of a thing, to have somebody Monday and Wednesday matching the pool hours as an at-risk for the gym, and that's it. And then 100% after that, or 75% after that, those might be options. I don't like the either or in this specific situation.
So just to spin off on that, my sense is the door being broken is an aberration. I'm going to call that an aberration. So I don't want to make a decision based on one person breaking a door or door lock. I think the larger issue was reservations are reaching capacity and adults and teens are going in without reservation. When I hear the word teens, I'm assuming under the authorized age of 18. That's what I was hearing. So clarify that. So I think the issue is
that is correct. Yes,
So-
and that's one of the things that the person that's emailing Kevin has said also.
So we have violations going on, and we're at capacity based on a reduced capacity. So to me, that's the frame. The framework is not the door lock being broken. It's the larger, more regular problematic behavior. I also do not support having a staff member down there all the time. I think that's not a good use of resources. So we either just, maybe one option is you go to 100%. Another option is keep it at 50 and see what happens. And then another is close it for a certain period of time.
Any other board comments, any motions?
So maybe my sense just is keep things as is. We need to do a direct, if you will, email plus signage there, a direct email to anyone who is registered to be there, and just says, this is on notice, and if it hits capacity, we have it reduced right now. If it hits capacity or people going in without reservations, and if teens are going in underage, then we will shut it down. So maybe this is a last, so my motion, it's not a motion, it's just keep things as is. But the
David,
the argument would be communication, heavy communication that says, that's it.
David, I can tell you, the signs, you can't miss them. I mean, if you've been down there, I've been down there to check them out. They are everywhere in there, and they're very clear in what they say. So you really can't miss that communication.
So is anybody wanting to make a motion? Oh,
Registered, maybe we do an email to anyone who's registered. I don't know.
Is 4 too few? Should it be 8? If you're going to try to make it work.
what are your thoughts, Steve, on that? Rather than making it 4, making it reservations for 8.
We can try it. We can try 8 for a week, and if we don't see any improvements, I'll come back and offer another recommendation next week.
Kevin, just note the note there, artisan pools at 50% of capacity.
Yeah, thank
That's
you.
Bill
I saw that.
McFadden, but I did get an email from them, from Bill, so I don't know if Bill wants to explain, but I thought there was an email from them to their residents that was saying they're increasing their capacity.
Let's
But do you want to
They're
address the
walking
Spring Lake
email
first?
too.
Let's finish this. Let's finish.
let's
Spring Lake.
let's finish this comment here first. Is there anybody that's David? Was your motion to go to 8, or what? Was there any motion?
No, I didn't have a, no, it was.
Oh, is there anybody that's going to motion?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to increase capacity to 75%, which would be 6, consistent with our pools, and have an at-risk for the fitness center remaining at 4 for Mondays and Wednesdays to coordinate with the consistent community message we're doing right now. Just a thought, doesn't have to be seconded.
Wait.
There we go.
Repeat that again. Again, sorry.
So I would go ahead and match the pools, for lack of a long explanation. Do the at-risk for the fitness center, Mondays and Wednesdays.
I'm sorry, do we have at-risk for fitness right now?
No.
We
Okay,
do
that's why I
not,
was
but
confused. Okay.
let me follow up. I'm sorry. The message that I've been receiving from the same resident is because they feel, and I'm not going to disclose the full reasons why they've shared, but they feel more at risk, which is why they are concerned about the over capacity occurring in the fitness center. So I'm trying to be mindful of that.
Got it.
And have a consistent message with all of our amenities.
Okay, got it. So you want to add the at-risk hours is what you're saying then?
I'm throwing it out there as a consideration, yes.
Yeah, you're putting two things in the motion. Upping.
Yeah, and
Capacity
I'll separate
before
if you like.
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead, Steve.
yeah, and we would be adding more restrictions, and the restrictions that we currently have are not being followed.
Touche.
Any comments, questions? Do I have a motion? Or do I have a second to Kevin's motion?
I don't mind if I'm the second. The real issue here is no different than the basketball courts. If we're going to have rules, at some point we're going to have to say the rules are real. And you know, I'm willing to try it if we want to try it for a week, and maybe we send an email blast out to people, regular people who use it based upon the passes, and tell them if it breaks down, we're shutting it down.
I would agree to revisit this next Friday and make that message loud and clear to the community that if we have concerns over the next week, as with everything else, we will be required to shut it down at that point. But we're at least showing that we're trying.
We can do that. That won't require a motion for that. We can just, that's just consensus, and we can do that.
Mary Ann, you were going to say something?
Oh, I said I'm comfortable with that, you know, because I do a message reinforcement. I'm thinking of this like parenting. You know, what you don't want to do is if you tell your kid they can have 2 pieces of candy and that's it, but they consistently eat 4, so you change the rule to 4. You know, I think that if we reinforce, I agree with what was just said. I think let's try this and then see what happens.
So over communicate.
Yes.
Okay. So just for right now, for clarification, the motion we have right now on the floor, though, and the second was to Mondays and Wednesdays, we're going to do at-risk times for the gym. And we're going to up the capacity, though, for the other times to 6 instead of 4. Is that what that was with the motion in the second, correct? Okay. So, and Kevin, and Brian was the second for that. So I'll call the vote for that particular motion. And then if, depending on where it goes.
Can I ask you real quick then, if we're going to do the email to the participants, and you probably, if they want to just withdraw their motions, and we'll try the email and then just come back next week and vote on it again. If this isn't solved.
That's what I would do. That's what I would do.
So I guess my question is, then, do
withdraw.
you want to withdraw a motion? You're going to withdraw? You're good with withdrawing?
I'll withdraw if management's okay with that.
Okay.
Yeah,
And,
we'll try it. Just
And put it on the agenda for next Friday, please.
okay. So my understanding right now is that we're leaving things the way they are, correct? We're not changing anything at all with our protocol for our gyms right now, correct?
for
That's
that
not-
gym, and we'll send an email to everybody that's registered to use the gym,
Okay.
and just remind them that, again, we'll give it another week, but if it doesn't improve, then we're gonna make a recommendation to shut it down.
So reservations still 4 people maximum, that's it, no reservations?
Yep. Yeah,
Perfect,
and
okay.
Yeah, I'll move along because I know you guys have a few different items here. We're running out of time. For the basketball court, for the second night now, last night, it was the same teenagers that were there. We had a conversation with them. We spoke with the security guard. We've identified one particular participant, and we have their contact information. We're going to be contacting them today. Everybody else seemed to fall in line last night after these conversations, but we did have one person. They were speaking Spanish. The monitor understood what they were saying, and this one person is kind of belligerent and not wanting to follow the rules. So we're going to try the approach of just addressing that one person at this point in time. And if that doesn't work, if we continue to see problems, we can bring this back to you next week for another vote on it.
So you're good with trying it again for another week and seeing how things happen by addressing the one particular resident?
Yeah, we need to contact this one resident though, and
Okay.
make sure that they understand that individuals can cause the entire facility to be shut down also if they're not going to abide by it.
Okay. Board, are we good with just continuing through for right now?
And yes,
Okay.
and this is just to clarify, access to that is resident ID only, correct?
Resident ID only into the park, but residents are allowed, based on the rules, to have guests with them. So we're seeing people that are in town. Right.
So is this
Same
person,
difference.
yeah, is this person a guest or a resident?
Oh, this person's a resident.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, we know who it is.
okay, yeah, okay.
Okay, I got your comment on that one, Kevin. We'll make sure we'll go back to that one in a minute. Is there any, Steve, and what other things other than after basketball court?
That's it for the first agenda item for the update on facilities.
No, that says a lot, doesn't it?
Just an hour.
There we go.
So we got lots left. So a quick question, Bill McFadden, are you still on? Okay, so here's just a couple things. It's 50%.
I'm on.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. Excellent. So can you clarify that and maybe provide anything you've been doing with your fitness center also, just for education purposes?
Really, we benefit here because I'm on-site staff and I'm here, so I can keep a better eye. You know, that's the advantage we have. It's also a little bit bigger, so you know, we're currently at 9 residents per 2-hour time slot right now. You know, 95% of the people, maybe more, have been really cool about everything. You're going to have the people that are frustrated with what's going on, and that's understandable. After the 2 hours, I go in and I disinfect pretty much every possible contact point I can in the gym. And then the next time slot comes in, everybody reserves the day before. I keep all the spreadsheets saved. I have everybody sign when they walk in the door, and it's been working pretty well.
Thank you. Appreciate that update.
No problem. And it's the same thing with the pool. Same thing. We clean everything after each time slot, and you know, we're at 50% capacity right now, which is 46 people. Our bathe load is 92.
Great. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Are we good to go on to the next item, which was the NEV conversation?
I'm going to ask Susan and Mike if they want to address this, and they can talk to you a little bit about the NEVs. I know we have some older NEVs that we've been using for pieces and parts. So, Susan?
Well, I'm going to let Mike take control, but Todd used parts and pieces from NEVs for a very long time, and now we've got 5 sitting over there that are inoperable and need to be disposed of. Mike?
Yeah, we have parted them out completely. It's whatever's left on these NEVs are no longer compatible with what we have currently operating. There is no market for these considering their current state. The company that we use that takes care of our NEVs and does our brakes and battery replacements and things like that have offered, and he's getting back to me in the next day or two because they have kind of, I think he offered maybe 800 a year or so ago to get them out of here. But we have removed some more pieces from them since then. So he was here 2 days ago looking at them, and he's going to get a number for us. It's not going to be a lot. I'm guessing between 300 and 500 just to get them off property. It will free up a lot of space back there by the shop. And also with the internet provider, it's blocking their building as well. 2 of the NEVs, which we need to get out. So it's more of a safety and aesthetic thing. I think some of the neighbors around that area might be happy that they're gone as well.
What do you want us to do?
Motion to remove them.
Management issue.
Well,
So a
Approval to
clarification,
dispose of them.
a clarification, is that?
Right, and I think,
Go ahead.
go ahead,
ahead.
Susan. Susan, it's all you. Go ahead.
and I was going to say, I think that anytime we dispose of any assets, you as the board should be aware. Whether or not you make a motion, we just want you to know and we want it in the minutes.
I will motion that we permit management to dispose of the assets as they deem necessary. Do I have a second?
Why don't we change your motion to say that we're going to dispose of the fully depreciated assets in whatever manner is most cost efficient?
Very good. Okay.
To Susan's point, do we need the motion, or is it good to just have this in the minutes?
Well, I think a motion is the best case scenario.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
And it'll be in the minutes. So I think
already
that's
have
a
a
great motion.
I'll second.
We already have a motion.
I'll
Oh,
second.
I thought, yeah, okay.
Or Brian, I don't, Brian second.
Whoever. Yes or no, David?
Yes.
Mary Ann, yes or no?
I hung on for this vote. I vote yes.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Off to your
I
paying
have to
job.
go. Sorry.
Off to your paying
Bye.
job. Thanks. Brian, yes or no?
Yes.
Kevin, yes or no?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So it's official now. Sheriff detail without CCDD funding. Conversation.
And Vanessa,
concerns?
this is not a action item. This was one of our workshop topics that the board asked to have placed on here. So I know that when we get down to number 5, there is some action, and I believe number 4 has some discussion related to something you'll be voting on next Wednesday. So in the interest of time, do we want to push the sheriff details back a little bit?
I'm fine with that. Is everybody good with that?
We're just running out of time to have a good conversation about it.
Yeah.
Agree. Okay, then let's move on to which one do you want us to do? The expansion of the CCDD, expansion of cameras or CCDD site?
Let's do number 4. Patrick, can you put on the screen the graphic that we had up a couple weeks ago?
Yes, give me 1 second.
And I know on the workshop agendas, one of the conversations was just an overall security, including the cameras. So we had this up 2 weeks ago, and out of that conversation, management recommended that Lakeside Park was your highest priority to look at first, and so that's going to be on the agenda for Wednesday to be voted on. But these are your total numbers for either camera improvements. It's kind of a mixture of utilizing existing cameras that work with the new VMS camera system and any new cameras that are needed to cover all the missing areas. So this is your grand total of what it's going to cost to do everything. But we do have next Wednesday, Lakeside Park, the full renovation cost for that discussion at the meeting. So Brian, do you have anything else we'd like to add? I know you had a lot of conversations about cameras.
Do we have any kind, before we vote next Wednesday, do we have any kind of an indication of what this means? Where the coverage would be at Lakeside Park and these other places? I mean, I'm a fan of getting a lot of this done just because I think it's intelligent with everything else that's going on in the world today. But to vote for Lakeside versus any other park, you know, it'd be nice to know, what does it mean? I mean, I look at the numbers, I can see those, but you know, Lakeside means, does this mean we're doing the pavilion, the field out there? Does it mean to do the walking paths? I have no clue. And versus East Village, what does East Village mean? Or some of those, you know, North Village 3905, you know, why not get that one done? Just.
Can I quickly go in there? If I remember correctly, Steve, when we first had Patrick go around with the guy, we had the big graphic and they actually put, like, we would put this here and this here. I remember seeing that at one point in time. Is that correct or not, Steve or Patrick?
Patrick, can you jump in?
I thought
Yes,
we
that
remember
is
seeing a site
correct.
plan.
We did. Right. We walked the site locations for the main focus was for the athletic fields and Lakeside. So we do have that for Lakeside. The other locations, they were just replacements of the existing cameras and upgrading to the VMS. That's why they are at a lower price point at the moment.
Well, I'll be honest. The pandemic has taught us how valuable the cameras are on many issues. So I think I see Kevin's note here and I'm not sure if he agrees with me or not, but I would be for get the darn thing done at 168,000. So, and it's painful, but I think we're always going to have somebody who wants us to do something, but this is security related. And it's just been valuable being able to say, Steve, Susan, we need to know what happened here. Go to the camera.
So do we have a motion? Are you making a motion and we can have a motion in a second?
Isn't our motion for the board meeting itself, or are we setting it up?
It is. It's an agenda item for next Wednesday, but it's for Lakeside only. Patrick, can you make sure if it's not already in the board packet that the board has all the information on where the cameras are going to go and which cameras are being upgraded?
Yes, I can make sure of that.
And then probably since it's such a large purchase and it is on the agenda for next Wednesday, it probably makes sense to do it at that meeting.
Okay.
And I'm fine with that as long as we have the materials to study in advance so we can have an intelligent conversation.
Yep.
Patrick, can you get that to them today so that they have it over the weekend?
Yes.
Okay.
And also, Patrick, I'm sorry to cut in there, Vanessa, can you identify of the 168 how much is operating versus replacement reserves versus working capital so that we know exactly how to structure the motion?
Yes, I can sit with Susan on that.
That's in the board book that shows two different sources for Lakeside, I think.
Yeah,
For Lakeside,
right.
You're talking about all the others?
Brian would like to do it for all of the areas that are noted on this spreadsheet that is on the screen right now. Correct, Brian?
That is a correct statement, and I thought I heard, if I heard Patrick correct, that in some of these other areas, we actually had outdated software or outdated cameras that needed to be replaced. So I think that would be replacement reserve, and that even makes me feel stronger that we need to do the full thing so that we've got the proper cameras and software everywhere.
Got it.
I was going to say that's exactly how Lakeside is done. We broke out what is replacement and what is not.
So Brian, are you suggesting Brian, for next Wednesday, are you suggesting that this entire package be part of the agenda, or might that be the July meeting? I mean, I'm just asking.
I'm perfectly fine with it being there next week.
Okay, if we can have public notice on that.
Well, it is noticed right now for Lakeside, and the agenda can be modified by Monday. But yeah, everything's within it's all established legally for being able to vote on the whole package for next week.
Why don't you modify the agenda with other, maybe two other items? Well, not additional items as appropriate, and then we can decide on the whole package or just Lakeside.
I'm just as a general, we can probably get a consensus now, and Kevin, I'll open it up to you too. I think I totally agree with Brian. I think there's no reason at all why we shouldn't go through and update everything we have. So I think, to Brian's point, we've learned a lot with how well our camera system has helped us in problem solving, being able to address individual residents rather than shutting everything down. So I think it's helped a lot. Kevin, you had a comment?
Yeah, I agree. Let's move forward.
So the only comment that I was going to make is because it is a lot of money, and I am in full support of going ahead and getting cameras to cover full coverage everywhere that we have it. It's clearly proven to be beneficial. The only thing that I'd be curious about, if we're, depending, I don't know what the number is of reserves, right, of what we have in reserves versus what's going to come out of capital, and we're going to be happy to learn that next week. One thing that I'd be curious about is, because we do have good coverage, not great coverage, but we have good coverage in the community in certain areas. I would be curious how old these cameras are that we currently have in place, and if there is a way that we need to go ahead and kind of hold on to our dollars, if it would even be possible, and I'm only thinking out loud here, it doesn't mean I agree with what I'm saying, but if we can go ahead and use cameras in some locations and consolidate to go ahead and say, all right, there's nothing wrong with the cameras at this location and that location, let's go ahead and combine them and get full coverage here and revisit this topic next year. So if it's something that we need to go ahead and watch dollar-wise.
If I remember correctly, Kevin, that it's different software, which is why this all has to happen. I don't think it can integrate. Is that correct, Steve?
They can. No, they can, Vanessa.
Oh,
some of them, I mean, they're compatible. But Patrick, when you guys went out and did this review, you had that conversation that Patrick's bringing up, right? Where you said, which one of these are just not going to cut it anymore? Which ones can still survive and which ones need to be replaced? Are you muted, Patrick?
No, I'm here.
Okay.
Correct. The order that they're actually listed here is pretty much the order in how we want to move forward with them. The Fields and Lakeside being two of the most important locations to get up and running, and then we were kind of talking about phasing out the rest. And so the second phase would include East Village, North Village, and the dog park with the better cameras.
Yeah, but Patrick, I don't mean to interrupt you. I apologize for that. But if the board's going to vote to spend the money for all of it, there is no phasing. It would just be to move forward. So the question is, when you guys walked and reviewed, you looked at which cameras could still function and which ones needed to be replaced, or does this number include just changing everything out?
These numbers include all the hardware and changing out the cameras. Some of these cameras can be used with the new VMS, the video management software that's needed to run and record these cameras, but we would have to kind of go out to some of the older locations like North Village just to make sure that the cameras can be included in those. It's give and take. I don't want to. I just want to be prepared to come and sit down and have a full conversation with you on each location, because they were all implemented at different times and different years.
The cameras were all implemented at different times and different years.
Even the recording hardware.
Yeah. So when and the recording hardware was already something that we're purchasing. But when it comes to changing out these cameras, is it fair to say that the coverage that all three of these companies that bid was to make sure that we had optimal coverage with optimal software, optimal hardware to ensure that coverage?
Correct.
So if we're going to, I guess my whole point here is, if we're going to go Kevin's route, we need more time. We don't have enough time between now and Wednesday to go, okay, we could save some money on and keep these a little bit longer. This process that Patrick and Todd went through was to get you optimal coverage with optimal hardware.
So thinking out loud for just a minute, it sounds like Patrick's approach may have been doing a phasing, and it sounds like the Fields and Lakeside are two of the most critical items. You can see that by the numbers as well as his statements. I don't know if the board would be okay going ahead and saying, hey, let's put that on Wednesday and let's workshop the rest of these items for maybe next Friday or so on. I don't want to go ahead and I don't want to hit our wallet harder than we have to if we have something that's working. And because technology is one of those things that is always changing. Cameras, I mean, the number of properties I've put cameras on, I feel like every year there's new software, new devices that have come out. I don't want to throw out, if there is good working cameras unnecessarily.
Got it. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, the only argument I'll make counter to what Kevin said is when I see Celebration Unleashed, if we're doing the Celebration Fields complex, it would seem it would be efficient to do the dog park at the same point in time because you're there. And I see labor down there at 10,770. If we do them in 2 phases, would that number be 14,000 versus perfect 1 phase, 8,000? So I'm not arguing a phase 1 versus a phase 2 versus doing 2 or 3 now and being smart about it. But for Wednesday's conversation, we can have a motion, but we can always change the motion. And Steve, it would be great if you and Patrick can come back and say, this is really the intelligent way to do it and why.
And just to point out real quickly, the field last year when we presented this, the board voted to approve the field complex to be done in the VMS, the hardware, the recording software that was needed for it. So those 2 are already in motion. So that's why in red, the minus 73,000, because that was already approved for expenditure.
But it sounds like it's still already being done and worked on and underway. So I'm still trying to think about overall cost efficiency. Lead us down the path next Wednesday to what is the intelligent way to go about this cost efficient wise. Because you've heard us now say, we understand we need to get strong in this area.
What I don't want to do is what we've had since last year, where we keep on postponing it. To Brian's point, and this has been something that we've been working on for a long time. The board consensus seems to be that we want camera coverage. We want it done economically. We want it out of reserves when at all possible, but we want to maximize our camera coverage. So if this plan does not do that, we would like one that does that. Is that a fair statement?
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Thank you.
So let's move on then. You don't need anything for us because we're going to be motioning next week or on Wednesday, correct?
Right.
Steve?
That will take place on Wednesday. Correct.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I don't know if the X means everything's X'd out here, but I'll jump into number 5 real quickly. So on number 5, the CDD sightlines. This is the intersection of Waterside and Celebration Avenue. I sent an email to the board a couple weeks ago. The traffic engineering department for the county administration, they have a protocol in Celebration for evaluation and recommendation for safety items, and they have identified that Celebration Avenue and Waterside Lane, that there's some safety concerns there, and they're asking to reduce some parking spaces at that location just for sight lines. There's apparently been 2 crashes over the last 5 years at that intersection. One was a rear-end collision, one was backed into, and one of the citizens' complaint is that it appears to be an issue that they're not able to see cars traveling northbound on Celebration Avenue because of cars parked along the curb on that area. Now, this is not CROA's, it's not in the authority of whether you can approve it or not approve it. This is just the county and the CDD asking for your opinion on what you think of this. So we wanted to bring it back to this workshop just so you can have a discussion and see if you can give me some consensus to bring back to Mr. Moyer with the Development District.
Just for clarification point, these are the parking spots that are leading up to the stop sign, moving from the Catholic Church towards the stop sign, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And do we know the number of parking spaces they are wanting to remove?
Hold on, let me look in this real quick.
I don't recall that figure.
It was either 2 or 3 spaces altogether.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure. Any board comments, concerns, questions? Go ahead, Kevin.
I think overall, while I appreciate the information being shared to the community, I think our best bet is to not make a motion, not make recommendations other than sharing the information to the community and encouraging them to reach out to the CCDD as well as Osceola County if they have concerns.
Vanessa, are you still there? Mr. Anderson, are you there?
I'm here.
Can we adjourn this meeting and come back to it later next week?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think we covered those things. Kevin, looks like everyone else was muted.
I'm going to say I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I see
Well,
Kevin.
unless our hacker's gone.
I'm here.
I mean, I don't mind the heckling, but if our hacker's gone, then we can continue.
I would be happy on the subject of the parking spaces over by the Catholic Church if we could just put the information in a Friday flash or two telling them it's being considered and ask residents to let CCD or CROA know if they have opinions.
I think that's consistent with Kevin's point about not taking a stand.
I heard Kevin say that. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I guess we lost Vanessa.
Maybe she was.
She ran away.
Oh, it's Friday. Oh, that's right. It's Friday.
Oh, and I do not have. I do not have a basement, by the way. I'm not sure there's many people in Florida that do have basements.
I just want to know if that's going to be in the minutes or not.
I have a 13-year-old that I've locked in his room because of the attitude a couple times, but.
Oh God! Comedic relief. That's great.
So that's a technical question about what can be redacted from the. That's a question.
Yeah, and Vanessa just sent a text about possible taking over our storage and video records from the Zoom bomb. So I need to get with Patrick and find out if there's any other type of security breaches that have taken place from this. But I'll get back with I'll get with JR and talk about putting something in the Friday Flash when it comes to the recommendations for the road. I'll get back with Mr. Moyer, see if there's any other information.
Okay. What's next week's agenda, Steve?
I know we had a leftover from the sheriff detail, and then we had a couple of the facilities that we wanted to revisit.
Yeah, Patrick, do you have that you can pop back up the agenda?
I'm sorry, which one are we talking?
Go back to the agenda.
Our agenda only had left the sheriff detail, which we're going to defer, and then future workshop topics.
Well, I'll tell you what, I sit here. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
I've been tracking what our topics are, and right now I have the gym as in the management update, playgrounds, which is from last week, and it may need to move to the next week. Sheriff detail without CDD funding, the cameras at all facilities, and then again, future workshops.
And cameras will be dealt with on Wednesday at the board meeting, so it won't be a next Friday.
Right.
So there's one thing.
Sorry, one thing that I would just ask that we can get on is regarding the website. During the technology committee meeting 2 weeks ago, Patrick brought up a comment or a concern regarding the technology committee. I'd like to just get that potentially on a workshop with the board to get everybody up to speed on that.
So the issue is, was it website or was it technology committee or both, Kevin?
It was an item that management brought up to the committee regarding the website. I think it needs to come through the board as well, just to be aware.
So website is the topic.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else urgent? Do we need anything new on the budget, Brian? Any preliminary conversations for a workshop?
No, when I had sent an email earlier this week, we've got to get at some point in time in July, or very early August, we need to start talking about the request for proposal that's required to get done in 2021 and how we're going to start planning for it. And I don't think it's not going to be just one conversation for a half hour. I suspect we're going to have to go through a few phases of how we're going to attack it. And we need to deal with it in July, early August, because it's got to come into the 2021 budget. So it's impossible to get it accurately in the budget without saying, this is what the heck we're going to do. So, that's the one budget item that's there that I think is a new item that we really need to talk about.
Okay, and Vanessa is back.
Glad the Zoom bomb went away. Thank you.
It was you. We thought that's why you dropped.
I did. No, no, I dropped because I didn't want him contaminating anything. Who knows what happened? So, Patrick, just as a side note, Patrick's going to work to make sure that there's no implication at all on any of our other stuff. So, was there anything else that we needed to discuss? It looks like we finished everything. Do we want to do the CCDD conversation with the sheriff, or do we want to postpone that?
No, we're going to do that next week. We talked about that while you were on.
So we're all set.
And Kevin added something from the technology committee on website.
Right. I heard that.
Oh,
yep,
okay. Sorry.
Web. Yep,
sorry.
I heard that.
Okay. Sorry. Okay.
Any other conversations? Or are we all good?
I think we're good for a weekend.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Have a terrific weekend, all. Enjoy.
You too.
I got.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.